Preseason game number 2. Camille and I tell you what we are watching most tonight on Locked On Bucks.
You are Locked On Bucks, your daily Milwaukee Bucks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Bucks. My name is Justin Garcia, joined as always by Camille Davis. We thank you for making this your first listen of the day. You can hear me on the Bucks Radio Network once again tonight, starting at 7 o'clock statewide. And you can find Camille as an analyst in our Locked On NBA coverage, the Locked On NBA show every Monday, the Technical Foul podcast as well. Preseason game number 2 is here, Camille. And I mean, I suppose we should start with the update of sorts we received yesterday. Wasn't really an upbeat podcast that we did. Was that the most recent one? Sometime this week.
Yeah.
We were talking about more of the same in the recent reporting that had come out. But we heard from Giannis after practice on Wednesday. And we heard from Doc Rivers as well, who found the reporting to be laughable. And I thought the most interesting part, I don't remember if this was you I was talking about it with or someone else, but I thought the most interesting part, we'll get to Giannis's comments, from Doc, though, was just asked about, like, how do you make sure this doesn't, like, fracture a locker room and start to become a distraction? And Doc was pretty upfront about it. Like, look, these guys have phones. These guys hear and see this stuff too. But everything we've seen, the way we've approached this, how we've communicated, I just don't think this is going to be an issue this season.
Yeah, I mean, it's important to keep in mind what the state of the locker room is, because although the rumors are solely focused around Giannis, it is going to have an effect on everyone else in that locker room. Giannis also made mention of that, of saying, like, you know, when the season starts for me, I'm not on my phone. I'm not checking stuff as much, but I know everyone doesn't subscribe to that particular style of going about things. And with that being said, he knows that with a younger locker room, and he said, I have to lead through actions and what I'm doing and words, and make sure that they can see how invested I am in this team as well. So yeah, hearing from Giannis was fun. And we've talked a little bit offline of, like, hey, Giannis could kind of end all of this, you know, if he came out and said what it is. And ahead of this season, yesterday, he came out and said, I am a Milwaukee Buck for this season. That part to me rang very clear in what Giannis was saying, which was, I'm locked in. There ain't no more conversations to have this season. The little flirtation lasts from when the season ends to when the new one begins. And now that we're here, I am locked in. Although he did leave that door open to say, you know, if 6-7 months from now, I changed my mind, that's human. You can do that. And the first thing I did, Justin, was check the calendar. Like, please don't be February.
November, December, January.
Like, oh, no. Okay. So it's more like end of season that he's talking about, in the sense of, like, hey, if at the end of the season I reevaluate, doesn't feel right, I can change my mind then. But right now, I'm locked in for the Bucks. And honestly, once I heard that, that's all I needed. I know the noise isn't going to go anywhere, and I know next offseason is going to be loud unless the Bucks do something really spectacular this season. But to know for at least this year going forward, can focus on the basketball with Giannis.
I mean, I don't even think really spectacular. Like, if they do something spectacular in the wrong direction, it is certainly going to be extremely loud. But I think it just all points to what they can do this summer, and it makes the trade deadline even more interesting if you have something that's open there with what starts to become available to them over the summer. Obviously, there's an extra pick over the summer, but you know, you have contracts that become interesting to dangle. So I think it's really just, if this team, and I wouldn't even say, like, hey, if they play as well as they did the last couple of years, because I do think a part of it is, like, we got to be better than that. Like, I'm not sticking around to just continue to be a 5 seed and kind of mirrored in the middle of the Eastern Conference. So I don't think they have to be like a top 2 or 3 seed and silence it. I think that would go a long way, but, like, just show the growth and show that this is a team that's still kind of lingering around where they were last. Even if they finish record-wise, We mentioned on the last show that did we mention this on the show or off the air? I was talking with somebody who is very bullish on this team and kind of set their baseline at 48 wins, which is that's what they won last year, right? It was 49,
Yep.
then 48. And even said, I see a ceiling for like low to mid 50s for this group if things less and come together. But like, even if you win fewer games, and let's say you're a 5 seed again, but you win in the first round, and maybe you win in the second round, or it's at least a competitive series where you can point to that and say, these young guys took a step forward. We got a lot more at our disposal this summer because, again, we're not butted up against the cap anymore, even though we got $20+ million in waived and stretch money. But we have other trade chips we can play that we think there's something here that people are going to want to play with you and the growth from the young guy that let's continue to lean into. That's the important part, not just like, hey, be a top 2 or be a top 3 seed.
I agree. I think it's more so with the performance of the team than like just the general standings of where they end up landing in this particular season. And even before the offseason really kicked off, I kept saying I think this upcoming year is going to be like a retooling year. That was the word I kept using. We heard gap year and all these other things, but I was like, it feels like the first step into a new direction for the Bucks. And they're trying to get the guys that can kind of fit what they're envisioning it looks like for them going forward. And to your point about the draft capital that the Bucks will be able to use to possibly make a trade, bring someone in at the end of this season, I think that plays into that. If the Bucks can have a strong year in the sense of make it to the playoffs, if you can get out the first round, glory be. Like, that's going to be a celebration after the last few years. But with that and finding pieces that can work around Giannis, having additional draft capital, we know John Horst is not scared or timid about making any moves that can improve this team. So if they can show something this year, like, hey, this is a solid base to build around, knowing John Horst and understanding that Giannis wants to be somewhere where he can win, I could definitely see next summer using some of those assets, maybe both the draft picks that will become available at that time, used to try to bring in some more talent for this team, especially if they show they take a step in the right direction. You have a bigger sample size to know, hey, we need this going forward. We thought we could get away with that, but actually we need this. So I think the door is still open for what happens after this season with Giannis, but I'm choosing to just focus right now on the here and now, enjoy the ride, enjoy the season, and then deal with all that other stuff as the season closes. Now, as you said, if we get off to a slow start, that can change things, I think.
That changed that 6 to 7 month window.
Yeah, it could be that 4 to 5 month window at that point.
It could be like a 2 to 3 month window at that point. And just to clarify too, it's not like I was just talking to some rando. It was somebody pretty well connected that very much believes in I'm not even gonna read it, but very much believes in this team. And it's funny too, I was listening to Nate Duncan's most recent season preview podcast that he does team by team. He had Jason Beatty on, who covers the Orlando Magic, and they were talking about Orlando and their chances. I think we've talked about this before. I think Orlando's going to be like the Cleveland of last year, not like 64 wins, but the team that just like makes a big jump in the regular season. They both agreed. And Jason at one point said too, like, well, everything he was saying reminded me so much of 2018 for the Bucks. It was like, well, like, we shouldn't celebrate winning in the first round, but like, we have to celebrate winning in the first round. We got like, they haven't even won a road playoff game under Jamal Mosley, not let alone a series playoff game on the road. Like, so we got to do that. We got to get out of the first round, and the expectation should be home court advantage in the first round. And you're listening to all this like, man, 7 years ago, we were having the same conversations. And oh, by the way, maybe you should celebrate getting out of the first round of the playoffs because we're ready for it. Like we've already planned the celebration for end of April when that takes place, hopefully this upcoming season. I do want to, we just briefly mentioned it. I do want to give the full quote from Doc Rivers and then the full quote from Giannis as well, which came from Eric Name at practice yesterday. So we'll get into that coming up next on Locked On Bucks. One of the tools that help make a huge difference for business owners is Quo, formerly OpenPhone. It's the same great business phone system you've heard us talk about, but with a brand new name. And here's why it matters. Every missed call is money left on the table. Whenever a customer begins to go down that road, you get customer conversations piling up. It all counts. So you need a phone system that keeps you connected 24/7. Quo is that system, the number one business phone system, streamlining customer communications. Works right through an app on your phone or computer, so you don't have to carry around two phones or rely on a landline. And you'll see why 90,000 businesses trust Quo. Again, formerly OpenPhone. They have an AI agent that's a game changer. It can answer calls after hours, capture leads for you, keeps businesses moving when you're off the clock. If you're a solo operator juggling everything, or even if you're part of a larger team, Quo makes it easy to stay responsive and professional with your customers. So get started free and get 20% off your first 6 months at quo.com/lockedonnba. That is QUO.com/lockedonnba. If you have existing numbers with another service, Quo will port them over at no extra charge. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. So the full quote, I guess we'll start with what we largely tackled. How do you deal with this? And Doc told Eric, I don't. I really don't. I mean, what are you supposed to say? I don't know how many more times, assuming I can say this, but I've been coaching 26, 27 years. And the one thing that I know is 30 teams call 30 teams. Like, hey, would you like to trade Chris Paul? You say no. That does not constitute a conversation. I read there were several conversations. Well, that never happened. It was a conversation where a team called, and John has been saying no now for 11 years. I don't know why this is a new story, but I guess it is. And then we touched on Eric asking him about the locker room. How do you keep these guys connected? And Doc said, I don't have to. Giannis does that. Giannis, everything Giannis says about the team and being a better team. So I don't have to do that. Every part of Giannis says all of that. If you read his comments this summer, every comment he's made is about being in Milwaukee, loving the city, but for some reason, and it's funny, what's the old saying? You create the story and then you report on the story you created. That's what it feels like, and it gets old for us. But at the end of the day, there's nothing we can do about it. But I can tell you, John has never called a team about Giannis. That has never happened. And until that happens, you don't really have a story. The last part of that, Camille, I don't think you will find anyone that disagrees with that, right? The Bucks are not going to proactively look at trading Giannis. I think there's always been this contention that this is a made-up story and, Sham Charania is a hack and blah, blah, blah. The one thing, I mean, look, I think it's worth noting how adamant Doc Rivers was in this. It's not like there hasn't been any smoke, and Giannis has largely said all of that. So I do think we need to balance those two things, and especially when you look at what you mentioned with Giannis's comment. Again, I don't want to make too much of it, but I do think we should at least pay attention to the wording. I believe in my teammates. I'm here to lead this team to wherever we can go, and it's definitely going to be hard. We're going to take it day by day, but I'm here. So all the other extra stuff does not matter. I think I've communicated with my teammates, communicated with the people I respect and love, that the moment I step on this court or in this facility, I wear this jersey. The rest does not matter. I'm locked into whatever I have in front of me. Now, if in 6-7 months I change my mind, I think that's human too. You're allowed to make any decision you want, but I'm locked in. I'm locked into this team. I'm locked into these guys, to this group and this coaching staff and myself. So I think that's the tricky part of it. Like, you love the fire that Doc Rivers spoke with, and like, guys, this isn't a story. I think there's a lot of truth to what he said. John Horst is not proactively trying to trade Giannis. I think teams do call, as we learned, sometimes it works. Hey, would you like to trade Luka Doncic? Sure. But it wasn't exactly this is nonsense, guys. I'm locked into my team. I'm here. I'm here right now. I'll be here for 6 or 7 months. If I change my mind, I'm allowed to do that.
I think the analogy Giannis gave about being out with like your wedding ring and what that looks like. I'm trying to find the quote right here. Giannis said, quote, it's, you know what it is? It's like temptation, temptation, like when you're going through an amusement park or you go through the outside and you're not wearing your wedding ring like me now. And the people are looking at you like, oh, he's kind of handsome. It's temptation. And that starts when the season ends until the season begins. And there's going to be a lot of people to approach me or approach my agent, and they're going to say, oh, this is a possibility. That's a possibility. This is a possibility. This is a possibility. But at the end of the day, ultimately, I'm going to make a decision. And my decision today is that I'm here and committed to this team. And then he also added, he thinks after the interview session that he had at training camp there, he said, I'm not going to see. You guys are going to say it. You're going to have your names on the report from Eric and Jim. Shout out to Eric and Jim. Giannis committed to Milwaukee and committed to this team. And when Giannis said it like that, I'm just like, I'm committed to Milwaukee. And again, we know there's little asterisks there of like this season. I'm committed this season. And what happens after that, I will evaluate and move forward from. But hopefully, again, when you're talking about Giannis being the leader that he is, and Doc Rivers talking about how Giannis is really helping to keep the locker room together, keeping that noise down in the locker room, I think that continues just to say more about Giannis's growth as a leader. Because I've said this before, but we know when he was younger, he really led through action solely. Like he wasn't a big rah-rah guy talking to his teammates, hyping them up like that. And last year is when I saw, like, you see him putting his arm around younger guys and talking to them. You see him in the huddles trying to draw things up from time to time. You see him just being more active and vocal in his leadership style. And I think that's going to have to continue this year as well with this particular Bucks group. He understands I'm one of the old guys on this team. I'm a vet on this team. Like, this is really his franchise. And I hope he understands, like, this is Giannis's franchise. So it all starts with him. The leadership starts with him, and he seems to be so ready for that too, like excited for the challenge. We heard him in the Greek interview after he won the bronze of saying, like, I enjoy challenges. I like things that can be difficult and trying to figure out my way through them. And him saying that this season is going to be hard. He knows that he's the sole superstar here with some dogs around him, but they're unproven. That makes me excited too of like, hey, I'm giving you everything I have. That's all I need from Giannis. And we know when he steps on the court, he gives you everything he has. What happens after the season happens after the season. But Giannis sounds locked in to this team this season with the Milwaukee Bucks. And he sounds like he also has a lot of belief in his teammates around him, and that he's been impressed too with the internal growth that he's seen from certain players that he's played with the last couple of years. Like, he was asked about Ryan Rollins, which I know the Locked On Bucks fans love when we talk about Ryan Rollins, but Giannis
was he asked about Kevin Porter Jr.? So we can make this like political season and each side gets advertising.
Right. You got to make sure every side gets a chance at the debate desk here. But I just think it says a lot that he does have faith in what this team can be. And again, as we've said, this Bucks team can surprise this year. And I think that they will, given the national narrative around what they think the ceiling for this Bucks team can be.
Well, I mean, he is the franchise, right? Nobody's going to dispute that. We've had the conversation before about greatest in franchise history. Who is it? And the debate between Giannis and Kareem. I still think, as of this moment, you can't say Kareem has not had an overall better career, but Giannis has had a better career with the Bucks. And I know Kareem played in 2 finals with the Bucks. Giannis has been so much more important to this franchise. Coming along at a time where the NBA was what it was. And I don't think anybody thought it would be possible for the Bucks to win a championship, having nothing to do with the talent on the team, even just the fact that small market versus big market, how Milwaukee was basically a basketball wasteland. I mean, you've talked, Camille, about Bradley Center days and how cheaply you could get in the building for some primo seats. I remember covering those teams at the Bradley Center and seeing how sparse it was with media and fans. He transformed everything with this group. And I do think it is a worthy conversation when things eventually end of whether or not this franchise is even in Milwaukee anymore, if it's not for Giannis. This is year 13, right? So that is the most of anyone in franchise history to play for the Bucks. That all these things are piling up for Giannis. Chris Middleton also played in parts of 12 seasons with the Bucks, and that's not a dig at his injuries. It's because he was traded midway through the season last year. But that's number 2. But Giannis is on that list of, in the top 3 right now in basically everything, or at least he's number 1 in all the offensive categories, and he just continues to climb everywhere else. And you talk about the seasons that he played. He is number 1 in games, number 1 in minutes, number 1 in field goals, number 1 in points scored, like all of it, but 3-pointers are the only thing that you're not going to see him here with. And for him, I think the 3 of us, you, me, and Frank, talked about this too. Here's where I think we can all relate to what he is probably experiencing right now. And this has gone on far longer than I think we anticipated to have the Giannis conversation. But, we'll save this. We'll come back after the break, and I'll say where we can all relate to this. And then I know you've had enough of I don't want to think about it anymore. I just want to enjoy Giannis, and we should. We'll move on to tonight's game and who we're most looking forward to seeing. So we'll get into that coming up next. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Every day we make decisions, but on Prize Picks, being right can actually get you paid. Don't miss the excitement of this football season with Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. Playing Prize Picks is a lot of fun. Simple way to add excitement to football. You just pick more or less on player projections, like Jordan Love's passing yards or Josh Jacobs rushing for a touchdown, all in the same game. You'll love how quick it is to make your lineup in under a minute. And Prize Picks added things like stacks. So if you want to ride with a player, you can select their pass yards, rush yards, and touchdowns all in one lineup. It's also fun to follow other players in the app and copy their lineups with a single click. And the new injury robot feature, well, if your player leaves early and doesn't return, it doesn't count against you. So download the Prize Picks app today and use the code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That is the code LOCKEDONNBA for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. All right, last thing, I promise. I think here's where we can all relate to what I'm sure is a part, at least, of what Giannis is feeling. I mean, by now, everyone has posted the Fresh Prince meme there of Will Smith in the final episode walking into the living room and
looking around.
It's empty now. I mean, there's 3 guys remaining from the championship team, and one of them left and came back. So it's just Giannis and Bobby Portis that have been here since 2020 continuously. And, we just mentioned 13 years for Giannis that he's been here. Giannis is the only one remaining from 2018 in that era of the Bucks that has been here all throughout. So I'm sure a part of it too is you see all that change going around you. And we've all experienced this in our day-to-day jobs where you have that group at the office that you're pretty tightly connected with and oh man, this is great. It makes coming to work fun. Yep. And sometimes you don't even remember what's going on. And then slowly they leave one by one. They go to other companies. They retire. They do something else, right? And you show up to the office one day and you look around and you're like, I guess I got to make new friends. And boy, these people are all younger than me, right out of college. So, all right, how you doing, fellow kids? That, I'm sure, is probably part of what is going. And coaching change too. I had a manager I really loved, and now they're gone, and we've moved on to a couple different ones. Again, not to say there's no relationship between Giannis and Doc, but that consistency is just gone, and those relationships are gone, and that can be very complicated and trying at times.
It's different, especially when you're the older person in the room and you can think back to when you were the youngest person in the room and you're like, dang, how did time pass that fast where now I'm the OG in the office on this team, whatever the case may be. And here are all these younger people coming in. It's dang, time has really moved. And sometimes you don't really think about it in real time because you're just trying to get through the day-to-day of whatever it is that you're going through. And then, like you said, you take that moment and you look around and you realize how the scope has changed of the job, the building, the team. And for the Bucks, yeah, I think that that's a real thing, which is why hearing things about Giannis's leadership style changing a bit, being more vocal, it feels so much more needed because of the age of this team, because of who he is to this team, and because it's a lot of younger guys who, as we saw last year, some guys were getting their first taste of the postseason last year. Kevin Porter Jr., where it's like, dang, I haven't done this before. The year before that, where it's like AJ Green making that debut and things of that sort, where you got to kind of talk to guys and like get them ready. Like Kyle Kuzma hasn't been to the playoffs since, that trade to Washington to begin with. So just getting everybody like, hey, here's what to expect. We got to lock in day in after day in and continue at it. And it seems like the team has that mentality, that personality that Giannis also has of like, hey, every day we're just trying to get better. We're going to grind and we're going to get to it. And that's the feeling that you get from this particular team, from Giannis. And honestly, it's needed from him. Also from Bobby Portis, who, as you mentioned, is one of the second longest tenured Bucks on this team here. I think he actually is technically the second longest tenured Buck on this team at this point. And Bobby Portis, when he got to Milwaukee, I think about like Chris Middleton being the guy in Bobby's ear to like calm him down. Like, hey, we need you, Bob. You can't be doing this. Chill out. And now seeing him last year, Bobby Portis taking that leadership step too, where he's talking to like Kevin Porter Jr. and he's like, hey, come on, I got you. Like, we're going to be all right. Let's get through this. But as time changes, roles have to change too. And I think the Bucks have some guys that have grown into that role really well. Giannis is who I've been talking about, but I think Bobby Portis is another one that has a lot of respect of his teammates from what he's done here in Milwaukee, from his time here, and someone who's going to be a big part of taking this team into the new direction that they're going in and kind of being that bridge between old and new and continue going forward. So yeah, I think Bobby is a name I haven't mentioned a lot so far this offseason, and talking about like his mentorship type of role, like being that vet. But this conversation is making me realize too, like it's going to be really important for Bobby too to step into that role.
Yeah, I mean, you obviously have other vets, but
they're different.
Yeah, Bobby and Giannis, and then Miles Turner, and what you're going to ask him, like those are your three vets on this team, and certainly guys like Gary Harris too. Cole Anthony is a vet per se, right? And especially a culture guy. That those are going to be the guys that are tasked with, all right, keep this group together and help bring these guys along here. As we wrap here, I want to get to two things. I got three quick hitters for you, and then who are we most looking forward to watching tonight? We'll start with the Bucks side of who we're looking forward to tonight. Who is this game most important for you? Who do you have your eye on the most?
Kyle Kuzma. I want to see the Kyle Kuzma. One, I want to see what the starting lineup is tonight. See if it's the exact same from game one, or if there's any tweaks to that. But also seeing how Kuz plays, like offensively, like we mentioned, he knocked down that first shot, missed his next 5 after that, but he was a force on the glass. He was rebounding.
You had to just throw it in there, Camille, didn't you?
What happened, Justin? I can't change what happened.
You are just as bad as the rest of them.
I can't change what happened. Okay. But that being said, the rebounding from Kyle Kuzma, I think is really big. And that's an area for this team this season that I've been kind of like, how is the rebounding going to work? Like, we've heard a lot of the critiques against Brook Lopez and his rebounding numbers, but the numbers also say that the Bucks rebounded better when he was on the court. So just kind of seeing how this all comes together, the role that Kuz plays, I think he's the one that I'm really looking to see what the game flow looks like for him.
I'm going to be boring and lazy and just lump in those guys at the end. Like, I don't know. I'll just say Amir Coffey, Chris Livingston, and Tyler Smith, because sadly, I think we've started to see enough tape on the name I didn't mention to kind of feel like between that and the contract, I kind of feel like I know where we're headed here. But that's the thing I'm most looking forward to. And then the lineups too, to your point, like Doc has talked about, we have a handful of lineups that we like. So is this going to be more of Giannis isn't playing, Kuz is starting, or is this, all right, now let's look at a different look with this group and see if they do things a little bit differently. Okay, a couple of really quick things to touch on. Number one, and these are non-Bucks related. 2 of the 3 are non-Bucks related. Did you see the report that Victor Wembanyama has grown 2 inches?
Yeah, 7'5".
Okay, he did not grow 2 inches. The Spurs are now listing him at his actual height. He was 7'5" last season. They listed him at 7'3". So let's start there. Yeah, I mean, how much of the it's not even Wemby hype because we've seen it's real.
It's
but
real.
like,
Yeah.
how in are you in Victor Wembanyama when you start to hear some of the like, oh, he should be a top 5 player already this season, could be a dark horse for MVP? Like, have you gone down that road?
Not necessarily. I try to watch basketball in the sense I try to take, I don't want to say expectations out because there's expectations when you play, but like I don't watch Wemby and be like, now let me see a top 5 player here as I tune in. For me, it's more of like this is a young dude who has a skill set that we haven't seen at this level. Like the things that he can do at now 7'5" is just utterly ridiculous. And for me, it's like I think he's one of the top players in the league. And I just I keep wanting to see how much better can he get. Like that's where I'm at with Wemby. Like, how much more of a ceiling do you have to raise?
Yeah.
Like, where can you get to? And even seeing some preseason stuff with him putting his shoulder in the guys, creating space, moving them out the way. I'm like, oh, like I'm even more interested. Like that's how I kind of view it. I try to just take it as it is, and maybe at the end of the year or in the mid-season break when you have All-Star, I kind of take a stock of like where I think things are ranked. But generally, I just want to watch and kind of see and just appreciate what I'm watching. And Wemby is one of those dudes where I hope he's healthy this year because I need a full season of Wemby.
That's right. Just stay healthy. I don't want to be the Tim Bontemps wet blanket, but the shoulder and kind of looked like his teammate was like, "Oh, we're doing this? Okay." Like I'd like to see more.
Oh, just practicing.
No, I'm ready for round 2. The other quick one. DeMar DeRozan has never consumed alcohol in his life. Did you see this? He said in order to prolong his career, he has never had a drink. Like at that young of an age to know I'm going to play in the NBA and that's my drive. That's my goal. I'm never consuming alcohol. Hats off to you.
Facts.
Did you say the same thing, Camille?
No, the first time I actually drank, I was like 16. I called my mom before I did. I called her and asked for permission to drink. I think it was like Smirnoff Ices. And she was so like, wait, what? You're calling me for what? And I was like, I'm at this party and they got Smirnoff Ices. Can I have one? My mom was like, girl, I don't care. Go ahead. So yeah, I definitely didn't wait that long. But my mom knew at least.
Oh,
you know, I was a good kid. Tried to be.
Look, all of our parents knew as much as we thought they didn't when we were that age. Like looking back in hindsight to some of the stuff I pulled, like, how did I think I was getting away with this?
Yeah,
But,
like it's very obvious.
Yeah, hats off to DeMar DeRozan. The last one, too, we may have to carry this over into its own episode. I have been known to lurk on the Bucks subreddit. I seldom post anything. Like I'll add some clarifications, or if people have things about games specifically, like, yeah, I can provide the intel here and give you the exact tip time and things like that. I'll give those comments, some cap comments I'll make too, but usually they're just to lurk. And I saw something yesterday where one of the threads, somebody asked, is this team, this version of the Bucks, is this like better than the 2022 team without Chris Middleton? And I mean, so you're at least entertaining it. So we should carry this over into its own episode, but
yeah,
no.
My
I
first instinct
cannot
is
get
no.
anywhere close on board with that, even with it taking Chris Middleton off the floor, because again, if Chris Middleton doesn't slip on a wet spot, the Bucks are the first back-to-back champions since the Golden State Warriors. That's how good that team was. And yeah, you can point to the offensive issues. You know, as we've detailed, there could be some offensive issues with this team too.
Yeah.
That defense was definitely better. You still had Brook Lopez at the tail end of his prime for what he was doing. That was Drew Holiday's best defensive season by far. And the tandem of he and Wesley Matthews and how much that still worked and paired together. There was just so much that fit with that group that 2022 team, the shame of it is I think they're going to get lost in the shuffle because it gets lumped in with the what have the Bucks done since winning a championship, where it's what they've won. They won 4 series, obviously, to win the title. And I think Giannis has won 4 series total outside of that through his career. So it gets lumped in with the 3 straight first-round losses, and they haven't gotten out of the second round since winning a title. But that team was great, and that team should have at least made the finals if Chris Middleton didn't suffer an injury.
You know, I was just thinking about like I need more time to think about it, but I think I'm leaning your way too because they could have even beaten the Celtics in that playoff run
Took
there.
them to 7
It took 'em to
games
seven-
without Chris Middleton.
when they lost
And if it
game
wasn't
6,
for a Jason Tatum superhuman game.
yeah, game 6 at home when they lost that one, I was like, I don't know if they're going to get 7 in Boston, but
Mhm.
it was one of those series where the Bucks could have advanced. They just it just fell apart in games. Like you said, Tatum went super hot in that
Tatum
game.
and Al Horford too in that game.
Yeah, and Al Horford. And then this
Mhm.
game 7 was the Grant Williams game, which can't forget that. So yeah, it was a really good team that just crumbled at the end there in those last few games against Boston without a very key piece of the rotation in Chris Middleton.
Well, leave your thoughts in the comments. How great was that 2022 team? And then any other thoughts that you have on the Giannis saga as well. We got a game tonight, so we'll be recapping tonight's game against the Pistons for tomorrow's episode, and then 2 more games next week before it's on to the regular season. Already 2 weeks away, less than 2 weeks away now. Holy cow. As always, if you're at the game tonight, stop by and say hello. I'm sure Dave Kane would love to meet you as well. I think we're in section 117. Just don't do it while we're on the air, but before and after, by all means. That'll do it for today's show. For Camille, I'm Justin. We'll talk with you guys once again tomorrow on Locked On Bucks.